Okay, the next topic, second video on sex hormone is on gonad development and sex determination. Gonads, so we have those either ovary or testes. They actually are for gametes production, making sperms and eggs. Sperms are usually pre-made in the ovaries, and then spermatogenesis will produce a lot of sperms in the testes. And they are all controlled by steroid hormones, androgen, estrogen, progestogen, etc. So androgens, or the male hormone, are responsible for testis production of sperms. And they are known as reproductive hormones. They also are very important in controlling sexual differentiation, fetus development or fetal development, growth and sexual maturation. So if there's something wrong that in this hypothalamic pituitary axis, because it governs the normal physiology of reproduction, the capacity of what we call the external genital development illustrates the importance of what we call this genetic determination of sexual differentiation, sex determination. So the basic concept now we have is that by default we are all females. Okay, you imagine what could have been able to control all this must rely on the difference between male and female, on the genes, right? And the only thing that we have that females don't have is that men, we all have Y chromosome, and that what makes man a man. And then with the Y chromosome, there must be some genes and factors we call it sex determinating. All right. So with the concept of that by default we are all female, so there must be some 3 steps to create male phenotype. First, we all start during embryonic development, all have this what we call bipotential gonad primordial, okay? And then later on will be transformed or transformed into testes. And then from the testes, where we can produce testosterone. Second, there's a hormone known as anti-Müllerian hormone, and this is internal reproductive tract. Okay, and this hormone is to depress the formation of the Müllerian ducts. Actually, the Müllerian duct is in the primordial gonad, but that this duct must be degraded because this would form female reproductive tract. Okay, so we need this hormone to make us a man, to remove the Müllerian duct or tract, because this tract would form the uterus or female body. External genital formation. Now we have to develop, like for example, we have the penis and all the sex organs, and that testosterone is important. We also need to have this 5-alpha dihydrotestosterone, DHT, with the use of the sartorial cell to produce 5-alpha reductase to make this a stronger hormone for the formation of male organs. So these 3 are required to make or create male phenotypes. Okay, so we are all by default females. Female differentiation occurs by default. Without these 3 steps, we cannot form male sex organ. But first thing first, where do these 3 hormones come from, or what control these 3 hormones? Okay, so coming from the genetics between female and male, XX in female, XY in male. So this is sex chromosome. Well, this is the sex chromosomes in human. Okay. Of course, other animals we have other sex determinating factors. All right, we're just mainly talking about mammals and mainly human or primates. And X chromosome has over 100 of what we call autosomal genes. And Y chromosome has very few autosomal genes. Those are the genes. Autosomal gene means those genes are for the body parts. Okay, so Y chromosome would have many different interesting genes. The working hypothesis, because by default we are all female, so there are some major steps needed. The three major steps in normal male phenotype development, they all come from this Y chromosome. All right. This is a drawing of the bipotential gonad. You can see this is the bipotential gonad. We have two ducts, Müllerian ducts and also Wolfing duct. Okay, I'm so sorry about these classical names, as they were discovered by those physicians and those anatomy, showing that in here we need this anti-Müllerian hormone to convert into the formation of a testis. Alright, so this is testis to form vas deferens, Sujin and also epididymis for the formation of the testis for spermatogenesis. After this, we have these seminal vesicles. So in this step here, we also need this SRY, sex determinating region Y protein, or SRY protein, actually from Y chromosome, to direct this bipotential gonad turn into a male sexual organ. If we don't do anything, then we'll be going into these Müllerian ducts fused together to form the uterus. And then also these Wolfing duct would also be degraded, and then you can see the upper vagina, cervix, and the uterus will form here. Of course, this also requires other homeobox genes like Hox genes, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 for the formation of those ovaries and oviducts and also the uterus. And in the beginning, we have this WNT4 and 9B for the formation of the bipotential gonad. And then this is the major factor from the Y chromosome, making these primitive organs into male organs. And then in this process, with testis making testosterone. The next slide look into the testis. The Wolfing duct actually would form in the gonad and then would form this testis. Alright, so this is actually controlled by another factor also from Y chromosome. Now SRY is here, but in other way the steroid factors or steroidic factor 1, SF1, is all the way here, forming the testis, okay? And after 11.5 days, and then you can see that these are the homeobox genes or developmental controlling genes like SOX9 and FGF9 and so on. They come out to form a testis. The Wolfing duct would produce these blood vessels moving along and then forming these different cell types, intercitum, testis cores, and then we have these Leydig cells, and then the Sertolio cells surrounding, Sertolio cells here surrounding, and then with other mole cells, and then forming this basic structure in the testis for spermatogenesis. Okay, all started from SRY with the help of SF1. So to sum up, we have this intermediate mesoderm with this bipotential gonadal range forming by SF1, also known as Fasciterosal or FTZF1. These other LEAP1 or WT1, these are same finger proteins controlling the formation of the bipotential gonad range. And then by default, we are all female, so the Wolfing duct would be removed, and then the other genes will turn on, forming the testes, and that SF1 and also WT1, and also other genes like SRY will turn on the anti-Müllerian hormone, to make the Müllerian duct become regressed. And at the same time, Leydig cells would produce testosterone. Testosterone would be forming these different male organs, the epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, with the help of converting the testosterone into DHT, and that would form the male genital, including the scrotum, prostate, and also the penis. And then back to normal, we have to have this Müllerian duct regressed, and the ovary. Once the ovary is formed, there will be estradiol. Enough estradiol that will form the female characteristics. All right, and then these other factors coming together. The genes are actually controlling sexual development. So I'm coming into a summary. These are known as steroidogenic factor (SF1), and then also WT1 and NIM1, the zinc finger protein. And then SF1 is actually an organ nuclear hormone receptor. They control the early gonad development. SF1 is also required for testosterone production. And reduction of this conversion to estradiol by controlling hydroxylation and the activity of this aromatase known as CYP19. So this is a very important gene, the Y gene or SRY, sex determining region Y gene, is a testis determining gene. It's so powerful that even for some people with double X or triple X or even quadruple X, as long as there's a Y chromosome there, the male characteristic would be developed or converted into it. There are also other in the X chromosome like a DAX1 gene that would repress those transfer proteins are known as star protein. The star protein is actually for the conversion or engagement of cholesterol into the metabolic pathway, producing different steroid hormone, right? So DAX1 gene would repress this star protein. The star one is known as sterol transfer receptor expression. Okay, so these are the genes. I hope you may find some time to redraw all of those different levels of control on your own so that you remember their relationships. Now, at the end, we have to come up with another more interesting topic. This is known as hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite is actually quite common in fish. The fish evolution, there are different kind of fish like perch, 鱸魚 or 鱸形, the scorpion fish, those lionfish, and also the other fish like wrasse, or this one is a famous one in the coral fish, including this crownfish. They usually come out when they are young as male, and then when they get bigger and bigger, they would be converted into female. In some cases, some experiments done to remove the female fish, or some male fish would be developed into female. So there would be some intrinsic pathways or hormonal control leading to the formation of male and female fish. Now this is quite understandable in Mother Nature. Many different organisms like to survive and they have to continue to have their offsprings, right? So if they are in isolated environment, they have their own way to survive and making male fish and female fish on their own choice. In many cases, some fish would become bigger and then they would become male fish again, because the male fish would like to dominate the community, and then that would produce enough sperm to fertilize many different female fish when they are in younger, smaller sizes. Okay, but interestingly, this kind of phenomenon also exists. I don't know whether it exists in mammals or not, but at least Mother Nature has a lot of what we call hermaphrodites, okay, or hermaphroditism. in fish or in different fish, it's called fishes, and also in different wildlife animals. Now, when it comes to man, we don't really understand this. You perhaps have watched these movies. These two are my favorite movies, like Danish Girl, actually based on true story. Before Second World War, some French physician, a doctor, they developed a kind of method, try to convert a man into a girl. Unfortunately, he failed. So Danish Girl actually died. And the same thing is true in, I don't know whether you have watched this movie or not, Tracy. Okay, so how about human? We usually call it pseudo-hermaphrodite, okay? We only have a male dominant, we're not supposed to change sex. Okay, so we call this a female hermaphrodite. But they do exist, like intersex or transgender individuals do exist. You may like to learn more. I have also put this in the Blackboard site. There's one chapter on this subject matter with more examples of transgender or intersex individual. Now, there are major causes of intersex in newborn found in what we call ambiguous genitals. Okay, like for example, androgen insensitivity syndrome or AIS happen with male malfunction androgen receptor. Okay, so born with incomplete female sex organ. You see, by default we are all female, and right now the androgen receptor is not strong enough to sense the male hormonal control of sex hormone. So therefore, those small vagina will come out in baby boy. Other examples happen in female: congenital adrenal hyperplasia, CAH. It's called adrenal genital syndrome because the developing female fetus will have the adrenal gland suddenly develop into a larger hormone secretion of androgen from the kidney, from the adrenal gland, all right? Remember, they have the same origin, okay? So that would cause female bodies would have more male sex organs coming out, okay? So it's quite unusual. Another example is progestin-induced pseudo-hermaphroditism. This is from the progestin actually used for miscarriage. So the mother had experience with a miscarriage. The doctor prescribed them with progestin, hoping that the baby would be more stable. But unfortunately, overdose or for some reason did not notice that a baby inside the mother's body, inside mother's womb, of course, then the fetus sex organs could be affected by progestin because progestin has to a certain extent has some androgenic effect as well. So this would be a common problem. But of course, either those ambiguous genitals or from other reasons, or even psychological reasons, nowadays it's quite common that people from male would like to convert into female, or male to or female to male. As you know that they are related to the hormones, so theoretically it's possible. You just give men with more estrogen or anti-androgens or even generic agonists, all right? Or female to male, you just give a female with more testosterone. There are two things that we have to be very careful. Number one, psychological counseling. Is that man really become a woman? Do they really want to have it? Or they would only occasionally would like to cosplay? Alright, so that's very important. We have seen many cases, actually in Hong Kong, in Hormonal, Department of Health, in a clinic, there's a doctor maybe deal with this kind of patients. In some cases, after the conversion, they would like to go back to become man or become female again, all right? The second thing is that because they were not born in the sex they would like to have, so most often they require to do organ transplantation. You know, of course, those are artificial sex organ transplantation, and that could be scary. All right. Finally, we have to pay attention to the risk of those applications of hormones. Hormone replacement therapies are always dangerous with this following risk: man or male to female, thromboembolic, liver dysfunction, breast cancer, prolactinoma, that is the pituitary gland producing prolactin tropes, would be forming this tumor, or even artery and cardiovascular disease. From female to man, breast or uterine cancer, erythrocytosis, so the blood cells would have very much of this blood cell and hematocrit are larger than 50%, and also liver dysfunction. So if you're interested in this topic, you may go into these references and take a look. And there are also clinical guidelines in UK or in US and also in Hong Kong controlling or regulating the applications of these hormonal replacement therapies for patients that would like to turn from male to female or female to male. Okay? And with that, I'll stop here, and then the third video we'll talk about pregnancy.